Hey, welcome. It's episode 350 of the Keto Diet Podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. My name is Leanne. I blog over at healthfulpursuit.com. I'm a functional blood chemistry specialist, and I'm so excited to chat with you today about fertility, keto, and hormones. Our guest today is Lauren Crotter, who's diet and lifestyle coach who helps people identify and implement life-changing food and wellness strategies so they can live healthier lives. Lauren earned her bachelor's degrees in health sciences and nursing from Purdue University and has experience working in functional medicine using diet and lifestyle as medicine. Lauren also owns and operates her photography business, Love Leon, with her husband and beautifully showcases weddings and families in intimate settings. You can check out Lauren and all her details using the links in today's show notes. And I hope you really enjoyed today's episode. Hey, I'm Leanne Vogel. You're listening to the Keto Diet Podcast. I've created a free guide with tips on how to start keto and maintain your fat-fueled life. Grab it at healthfulpursuit.com/free as a little thank you for listening to the show. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to just say in your own words who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about. Just give us a lowdown on who Lauren is.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm Lauren. I live in the Midwest and I'm an RN. I also run our photography business and I'm a mom to our baby girl named Birdie.
That's amazing. And you sound very busy. How do you have time for life? Like, that's a lot of things.
No, I am not practicing like in the hospital right now. So I'm just using my knowledge that I gained throughout the years to do some private ketogenic coaching so that's from home. And I can do that while she sleeps, while she nurses. I can do all that. And then with photography, we've taken less like weddings and do more families. And so shooting is shorter and a lot of it can be done at home too during nap time. And so I'm really, really blessed to be able to do a lot of it from home.
That's amazing. And so you are an RN, but you also have a functional medicine approach. How do the two go hand in hand? And what do you find is contradictory, or do they feed into one another? Can you just explain what your process is and kind of how you came about this?
So it was my own health journey that led me to functional medicine, like as a patient. And so I was still practicing at the time. I think it was in actual surgery. I got a surgery nurse circulating in the OR, and I was seeking functional medicine for my own health, and it didn't align, and it made the job really hard. But I didn't believe in it for myself. Like giving that kind of care, it felt really contradictory and really hard. And, we need surgeons and anesthesiologists and techs for certain things. There's a time and a place, I think, for it. But what I was doing was a lot of orthopedic. And so there wasn't any conversation about how we got there or how to back up. And so I ultimately left, and that's when I started our photography business. And then when I jumped back into nursing, it was at a functional medicine office here in Indiana. And I worked under a doctor, a nurse practitioner, and some naturopaths. So in my couple of years there, I learned so much, and we can back up in that. But yeah, I started teaching and coaching patients with a ketogenic diet there. So that's kind of how I landed there.
I've just about completed the FDN, Functional Diagnostic Nutrition course. Many of you have been asking me whether or not getting into functional health and running a functional health business is worth the effort. When I started studying nutrition back in 2007, I had zero interest in making it a full-time job. I just wanted to learn about health so I could help myself. 3 paperback books, 21 plus digital programs, and over 400 podcast episodes later, I was like super mistaken. Looking back, I wish I'd chosen my first program wisely. When I graduated from CSNN in 2008, I did not feel equipped to work with clients. I hear this about many programs out there today. They're super rich in knowledge, but really poor in delivering the resources and tools that students need to develop a thriving business. I only wish FDN would have been my introduction to the functional health world. Functional Diagnostic Nutrition sets up their graduates for success and gives them the ability to build their own thriving full-time practice after certification. Going through the course material as somebody who has been actively involved in the field of nutrition for over 14 years, with a lot of struggle there in the beginning to figure out how to actually help my clients, I quickly realized that FDN graduates do not face this same struggle. Plus, you get to be your own first client with 5 lab screenings included in the cost of your tuition and over 12 hours of one-on-one mentorship. You will learn to walk the talk as a practitioner so you can improve your own health while in turn learning how to help others. And that's really where the gold is. FDN thoroughly delivers a program that gets somebody who is brand new to nutrition up and going with confidence. Oh, I wish I'd found this program when I first started. If you're looking to get into the field, set up your own business with success, and turn your love of nutrition into a full-time job of helping others, you can go to healthfulpursuit.com/FDN. That's healthfulpursuit.com/FDN for more information. And as always, the links will be in the show notes. That's great. And okay, so let's rewind. I wanted to definitely set the stage there because it is such a unique thing. And I am seeing, I've chatted with a lot of RNs lately and NPs and, people in the field of medicine starting to see that they're working on clinical work and there's so much subclinical work that can happen. So your story is just so incredibly wonderful. And it sounds like it was sparked from your own experiences with your health. So I'd love to backtrack to your early 20s, what went on there, the cascade of craziness. Tell us what you've been through, sister.
Cascade is a good word. So I was graduating from college with my first degree in health sciences and jumping into an accelerated nursing program and getting married, which hindsight, don't do that. So at the time, ignorance, just going with the flow. I was 22, you just do what people do. And I went on birth control because we weren't ready to start a family. We were both in college. I think my husband was making $75 a month or something. Being an RA, we were this is not the time to have children. So I went on birth control without thinking very much about it. And I think I was only on it for 3 to 6 months. And I was in accelerated nursing school and did not feel well, just felt like crap. And so I just decided to take myself off and eliminate birth control from the equation. And my cycle didn't come back. So 6 months went on and I still didn't have a cycle. We actually thought we were pregnant, but ultimately I was at that time at 22 diagnosed with I think they first tagged it as hypothalamic amenorrhea. And the first reproductive endocrinologist that I saw literally told me to go do yoga. And yeah, I think he just said, you just need to go relax and do some yoga. So since that first opinion, obviously I sought more and I dove into my own research. I was bound and determined to figure things out. And what actually happened was birth control, which I need to look up the percentage that this happens to women, but it threw me into premature menopause. So birth control, the job of it is to shut the ovaries down, as you know, and it shut mine down and put them to sleep and they never woke back up. And it happens. But doctors and their drugs, they didn't want to say that or believe that. But ultimately that's what happened. And so I was 22 then, and faith has always been a huge part of our life. And so I sought doctors, and the next step was I sought actually a chiropractor, which kind of is part of the story, but we also did a lot of praying. So we did a lot of praying for healing over about 8 or 9 years. And as we were praying, I started to change my diet. Maybe what I'm putting in my mouth matters. And the first chiropractor told me to go gluten-free. And I was like, okay, we'll start there. And so it kind of went from gluten-free to Whole30 to a paleo lifestyle. And then Leanne actually found your work. And so my paleo lifestyle went to a ketogenic lifestyle. So that's the progression of, seeking doctors to chiropractors to more natural medicine, using diet. And then I landed on a ketogenic diet.
That's amazing. And just The whole birth control thing just gets me. Everyone's story, like if I really get into it and allow myself to feel, I'm going to cry because so many women don't understand what they're doing and there is not informed consent at all.
No, don't get, like, I get riled up. So
yeah.
I feel the same about synthetic birth control, synthetic hormones. And I mean, I can come to peace now with like my story and everything that's transpired. And I'm no longer bitter and angry, but it's devastating. It was devastating to my health and, for the rest of my life, honestly. So it's something that I really try to advocate for.
Same. I had amenorrhea for 8 years because of hormonal birth control and, taking on clients again and filling up my calendar. I forgot how common hormonal birth control was. And I'm chatting with these clients and I'm saying why did you go on birth control? And it's rarely for actual birth control. Yeah. It's my skin was bad. My periods were irregular. My periods were bad. It was painful. I decided to go on this, that, and the other thing, but they don't know what's happening. And so I love more than anything having other women on the show to talk about their experience. Will your experience be everyone's experience? No. Not at all. I'm sure. I hope not. But I think we need to understand what we're putting in our bodies. And I love that you are brave enough to share that because I think when it comes to periods and hormones and giving birth and fertility, it's a very private issue and there can be a lot of shame around it. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. There is a lot of shame and it's super private and really vulnerable, but what would it be for me to not say, this happened and I don't want this for anyone. So yeah. Welcome.
Now, when it comes to hypothalamic amenorrhea, do you feel like it's one of those basket diagnosis, IBS, where it's we don't know what's wrong with you, hypothalamic amenorrhea? I'm starting to feel that way.
Totally. They slapped that diagnosis on me because it was easy for them. And legitimately, I think it was the same doctor or maybe another one to this is your diagnosis. Come back to me when you want to get pregnant. He said, I'll drain your bank account, but I'll try to make it happen. And there was no instruction about anything, the root cause. Where do we go from here? What about all of my hormones? Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. What about my thyroid? We can get into that. It obviously affected my whole HPA axis. And yeah, nothing. Come back to me, kid, when you want to get pregnant. That's what I got.
I got the same thing. I got the exact same message. Come back to me when you want kids and we'll figure it out and it'll cost a lot of money, but we'll make it happen. I can't. So you mentioned HPA axis. Could we get into a little bit of what that is? You said it and people are like, what did she just say? So can we go into a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, hypothalamic pituitary adrenals. So obviously so interconnected with your ovaries or your sex hormones too. And so for years, I was undiagnosed hypothyroid because nobody was thinking about all of the hormones and the axis and that they're all together. And so you'll hear the term adrenal fatigue or, hypothyroid. And I was so tired and I wasn't sleeping well, all the things. And so finally I sought at where I worked, I was also treated. And so I was able, it was kind of really nice, able to kind of dig into some of this stuff with my providers and finally started going down the route of the thyroid health. And it's the master gland. It's huge. So I went on all sorts of thyroid replacement, trying to get my numbers in a therapeutic level, get my energy up, just, all of the more natural desiccated thyroid hormones we tried some T3 with Synthroid. We tried it all, Armour, Nature Throid, NP Thyroid. You probably know all of them. I maybe missed some, but we tried them all. And I actually ended up going to Germany. We moved overseas for a couple of months in the midst of all of this. And so I didn't have access to medical care over there while we were there because it was a pre-existing condition. It was an emergency. And I knew that I was super hypo and there was nothing I could do. So are you familiar with Paul Robinson?
I'm not. I'm just imagining you being in Germany, super hypo with no medications and no help. No, I've not heard of him.
That was me. So we traveled to different countries on the weekends because you're in Europe. You're like, I must go everywhere. So we would fly out or take a train on a Friday, come back on like a Monday morning for him to work. And I was just like traveling Europe, espresso shot from espresso shot from espresso, just trying to make it. And so during the week, I was just pretty shot. And so I dove into Paul Robinson. Maybe you'll get to talk to him. I think he's based in the UK, and he wrote a couple books about a reverse T3 issue that you can, and I was familiar with this, calculate your reverse T3 ratio and use T3 only treatment to kind of like dig yourself out of the hole. So I read a couple of his books along with a bunch of thyroid books while I was there. I got back to the US and I found a nurse practitioner and friend that helped me I took myself off of all of the thyroid stuff and I started working with Cytomel or T3 only. And I finally, for the first time in probably 9 years, I dug myself out of a reverse T3 issue and started to feel human again.
I couldn't even imagine how that would have felt before you were medicated. Like, I have a bad thyroid too. Hypothalamic amenorrhea will do that. And if I go a couple of hours, I just forget my medication in the morning, my husband can tell. He's like, did you take your thyroid this morning? Because I'm a completely different human. I feel like a lot of people in the health space either are afraid of medication or avoid medication. They feel like it's shameful or unnecessary to take certain medications. What would you say about that as it relates to your thyroid?
Man, I mean, a normal person has thyroid T4 and T3 running through their veins at all hours of the day. It's so important. So it's like, if your body isn't making it, or if your body isn't converting it, like in my case, it wasn't taking the T4 and converting it to the active form of thyroid. So it's like, by all means, like there's a time and a place for medication. I wouldn't be alive without it. So I'm so thankful for that. And I'm thankful just for all the people who have dedicated their lives to figuring this out. As you know, it's so undiagnosed and it's undertreated. And I was on thyroid medication, but it wasn't doing anything for me, because my body wasn't using it. And so, yeah, I definitely think there's stigma around it, but also there is a time and a place for medicine. And I'm really thankful for it.
Keto flu, impossible fasting symptoms that stop you mid-fast, cravings at any hour of the day, or feeling off after a sweaty workout. These are some of the signs that you're low in electrolytes. When I first started keto, I made all of the mistakes. One of the biggest ones was not supplementing with electrolytes. And still, 7 years into keto, I often forget how essential electrolytes are. Honestly, it's easy to forget to take electrolytes because, well, a lot of them don't taste very good or work very well. Enter Element, the most delicious, well-balanced electrolyte powder I've personally tried, like ever. Add to water and enjoy any time of day. These electrolytes are salty, as they should be, quenching your thirst and hitting the spot. And the best part, when you head to drinklmnt.com/KDP, you'll receive a free Element sample pack. You only pay $5 for shipping. The sample pack includes 8 packets of Element that includes 2 citrus, 2 raspberry, 2 orange, and 2 raw unflavored. Go to drinklmnt.com/KDP for your free sample pack. I love Element and I really think you're going to too. Again, that's drinklmnt.com/KDP to get your free sample pack. And if you don't love it, they will refund your $5, no questions asked.
And that's why it's so important. I chat with people and they say, well, my doctor put me on Synthroid. They said we'd follow up in a year. I'm like, no. Like, you need to be testing like in 30 days and then like maybe in 60 days. And if that's going good, maybe in 90 days, like you really need to check this thing. And also too, with the conversion, I don't think a lot of people understand that T4 inactive hormone has to convert to T3. Where does that happen? In the liver and the gut. So if your liver is not working optimally, which I don't know a human whose liver is perfect. If your gut isn't working optimally, I would say of my clients, probably 80% of them have parasites or some sort of abnormal growth that shouldn't be there. Your thyroid is going to be affected. And if your liver is not functioning properly, you will see it in your thyroid numbers. So this stuff is all connected, and it's not just what I want people to hear from today's episode is not just get on thyroid and it'll make your life better. It's all interconnected, and this happened because of one thing plus a multiple of other things that all cascaded into a bunch of things. And I'm sure that you experienced that in your own experience where it wasn't just, okay, well, put a Band-Aid on that. Now we're good to go. Was it multifaceted as to what you had to do to get to the place where you are today?
Well, at the time, it's like T3 only treatment it's kind of last ditch effort. It's not like for everyone. It's not recommended. It's kind of like, hopefully this is short term kind of thing. And we can get into this. For me, it was like, yes, like I know I need to do this right now for myself. And not that it was a Band-Aid, but it was hopefully a short term thing because T3 is short acting and I have to take it 3 times a day every day, which just not ideal, you know? So at the time it was definitely, yes, like let's do this treatment short term. But fast forward, I think it's been 2 years, maybe 3 that I'm still on T3 only. And it's because I went into, once we finally got my thyroid up and I was like, oh, I feel so much better. My health overall is better. I felt a permission and also just like a readiness to start fertility treatment. So like, I don't know how much you want to go into that, but with fertility treatment and pregnancy and breastfeeding, it's like, I haven't really had a chance to rock the boat because like it's working, it's happening, you know? And so you just recently had a thyroid expert on your show. What's his name?
Oh gosh. I have no idea. You know what? It's funny. Like people ask me, who's been on your podcast? What episode are you on? And I record in batch files where I do like 12 to 20 recordings in like 3 days. I don't know. Oh, actually, I do know. Michael Rutherford. That's who it is. Yes.
So anyways, I was listening to him and thinking like, as soon as whenever my daughter weans, whenever she's done breastfeeding, I get to work on my gut again. So I'm suspicious of SIBO, and just with my background, I think that's what's going on. It's often caused from like everything that you're on in fertility treatment, and then pregnancy and childbirth. It's just kind of like a wild ride for your body, and it's pretty stressful on your body. So anywho, the plan is once I'm done breastfeeding to be able to work on my gut. And then I would love to get back on a blend of T3 and T4.
That's amazing. And something that I'm learning with SIBO is that it's not just SIBO. It's generally parasitic or mycotoxins or heavy metals or something that's causing the SIBO, not that SIBO is root cause stuff. And so I often tested for SIBO and we'd be like, yep, you got SIBO. Let's put you on this protocol. You'll be good to go in 3 to 6 months. And then after a year, they'd come back to me with SIBO. And I'd be like, are you kidding me? Like we tested, you were negative. It's all good. And now I'm starting to find through functional blood chemistry is that the SIBO was not the problem. And through the patterns in the lab work, it's like parasites or mycotoxins or heavy metals. So it might be fun to kind of see. I'd be interested for you to come back on the show later and be like, what'd you find?
Parasites, fun. No, I expect all of the above. Like, who knows what's causing it? I just know that I can't treat it while I'm breastfeeding. And so it's fine. It's okay. I'm like just dealing with the symptoms right now just because I feel so thankful and so honored that my body is breastfeeding. It is okay. Is how I feel.
Isn't that crazy? So we were talking about in your 20s where you don't have a period. Your doctor says that you have hypothalamic amenorrhea. Turns out you have early menopause and now you're breastfeeding. Like that's incredible. That is incredible.
It's a miracle. And we don't really know. Like, so we went through fertility treatment to have Birdie, is her name. And I think that there was a part of me, I was holding my breath, obviously, through the whole pregnancy because it was all high risk and all we really knew was loss and disappointment. And so pregnancy was super rough up until about 24 weeks. And even then, and through all of it, I was just holding my breath, especially for nursing. I was like, if I was in premature menopause prior to this, like there's a really good chance my body is not going to have what it needs to breastfeed. And so I prayed a lot about it. I worried a lot about it. And I kind of held it loosely and just decided like, like whatever we have to do, we'll do. Like we have to buy donor milk. I just kind of prepared myself for whatever happened. And First of all, Birdie got here and she was perfect. And she went through a seamless natural labor and it just has been the biggest blessing, angel gift since the moment she came out of me. And I ketogenic throughout all of pregnancy and breastfeeding. I guess I should add all of that in. And my body's making enough and then some milk. I've actually fed another baby. So my body's doing it.
That's incredible. Like, I think, as a young woman who had hypothalamic amenorrhea for so long, who is told over and over and over, you're never going to have children, that starts to just set in and you kind of lose hope. And for a lot of us, we never even try. And so I think for those listening who are completely discouraged by where they're at, that's so incredibly encouraging. And wow. Just wow. That's so great. I'm so happy for you.
I knew I had to try. And we went in and decided that we knew that I had to be brave enough to break my own heart. And I knew that going in. And gosh, if I can tell anyone, like, do it, try. If it's a desire of your heart, try.
That's beautiful. And before you said that you were keto all through your pregnancy and breastfeeding. And so that's a little interesting. It's not something that I'm willing to do with my clients, but if I were to get pregnant tomorrow, I would totally be keto. What has been your experience with that? What did you notice throughout your trimesters? Like, fill us in.
Back up, I went through like a natural childbirth class that really encouraged prioritizing protein. So I was like, check, we got that. And I was working with a midwife who was super open to me kind of doing things differently and questioning the norm and yada, yada. So I kind of just did my own thing and I didn't really ask anyone's permission. And I did a lot of research and saw that other women have done it. And it's the diet that got me pregnant, first of all. It's the diet that I feel my best. It's what some would call the proper human diet. It's just whole real food. It's meat and healthy fats and nuts and seeds and vegetables and fruit. And so I was gung-ho. And then I think it was like at 6 or 7 weeks, I started getting so sick and I was like, oh no, like I can't eat meat. I can't eat vegetables. Like I could not. My husband was cooking his steak outside and eating it outside because I couldn't even smell it. And so I got really creative for the first about 16, 20 weeks. I stayed at what you would say low carb or ketogenic, but I made my own bread. I ate a lot of nuts and seeds. And there are certain products that if you're interested, if anyone's interested, I can share that really saved me. So I still felt like I was nourishing my body, even though I wasn't eating normally by any means. And then when I hit 20 weeks, I just started eating like I did. We eat meat and vegetables, and I was craving burgers and steak and chicken wings, and my husband was totally taking advantage of that. And I don't know, the rest of my pregnancy was super smooth. And since then, I would say breastfeeding, I'm even lower carb. With SIBO symptoms, I just really need to be, the more vegetables you eat, the worse things kind of get. So I'm probably even more so keto carnivore now. But what's interesting is I didn't gain as much weight as I maybe should have along the way. And I say should with air quotes. I guess people don't look at this, do they?
Oh, they do. Yeah, you're good. They'll see this.
I've done air quotes like 4 times.
Should, air quotes, for those just listening.
Different times, it's like, who are we comparing me to? Are we comparing me to someone on the standard American diet? Are we comparing me to someone else? Like diet, no diet, we're all bio individual. So there were some conversations about that, but I'm just a small girl and my midwife was so supportive. She never fear mongered me. The baby was growing wonderfully the whole time. And they definitely watched me. I wasn't gaining a ton of extra fat. And that's not the norm, I would say. It's the opposite is usually the issue. And Birdie popped out and she was 7 pounds, 9 ounces, which
That's
is
perfect.
Pretty big, actually. So she got everything she needed.
That's amazing. I think if I came home and told my husband that all I wanted was meat forever, he'd love me more. I'm sure he would.
Yes, I think he did.
It's so true. Like steak and burgers and chicken wings. Oh my goodness, that is his dream. So you mentioned that you do coaching. What's it like being a woman of faith? Because you mentioned prayer and how important that is for you. Being a woman of faith in this industry that, now being a Christian is like, there are some things that just, how do you do it? Like, how do you set up your practice? How do you continue to love the Lord and do what you do?
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job of that.
Thank you.
It's so evident, and I have loved following that journey. And yeah, your testimony, I feel like you partner all of it so well, and you don't shy away from saying the name of Jesus, which is pretty amazing. And I don't know, I think for me, I don't have the platform that you have, so it's maybe not as challenging. But when we work together, we are treating our body as a temple, and we're honoring God with our bodies, and we're nourishing our bodies. And I feel like people have come from such a place of hating their bodies and, destroying them and being so unkind to them, that I feel like it's really, and probably you agree, really easy to marry what the Bible has to say and what God has to say about us with how we treat it and nourish it. So I feel like that's a really easy part. It probably would be harder if someone didn't have any belief in how, God felt about them and loved them so much and cared for them so much, because I feel like it's really, in my opinion, easy and wonderful to nourish your body with the foods that it loves and likes and responsible to,
Yes, completely. I think now understanding how much God loves us and how he provided all these tools for us to feel our best, and so that we could go out into the world to do the things that we need to do to bring glory to him. I think that's one of my most favorite things. I work with some Christians and other women are not Christians, and I try to, respect that. And I don't want to be pushy or anything like that. But for the women that are Christians, it is such an amazing feeling to get to work with a Christian woman who understands how much God loves her, and she's so frustrated with her body, and to get her to a place where she's able to show up better for her mission and just where she needs to be to bring glory to God is just like, are you kidding me? This is the coolest job ever.
There isn't anything better, because when you can be freed up to stop thinking about yourself, whether you're thinking positive things about yourself, negative things about yourself, you're still wrapped up in yourself. But if you can be freed of that and free to serve, free to love, free to give, have energy to give, yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I just worked with a client, and that was her main mission going into working with me. She wants to be on a mission. She wants to kind of get out of her own way. And I'm really proud of her. I think that she's done that. And it's a long journey. It's not, your clients only work with you for so long, but it's a forever journey.
I really hope you're enjoying today's episode. I'd love to see where you're listening from. You can snap a pic and tag me at Leanne Vogel, or leave a review for the show on your favorite podcast player. It helps me out tremendously. Okay, back to the good stuff.
It's so true. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think it can be really easy to pick up our phones and look on Instagram or wherever and be like, oh, she's so happy and it was so easy for her. And, through my work, and I'm sure through yours also, I really don't want anyone to think that life has been easy or that it just happens like this and all of a sudden you have this perfect body and this perfect health. My health is still not ideal. I'm dealing with a couple of things that have been around for a very long time. And we're talking 15 years, where I've really started taking it seriously. And as you learn more and as you understand your body more and you're learning more things, or you're working with a coach and you unravel certain things, ultimately, like what you were saying before, it's this balance and this tension I think we all carry of wanting to care for our bodies, but not become self-obsessed. And it's the only thing that's important to us. And this drive to constantly be better. It's I think we need to come to this realization sometimes that it's good enough. And that's something that I've definitely tried to get better at, is it's good enough right now. I know I have some things I need to work on, but I can still serve. I can still do these things regardless of what might be going on with my health. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. And I totally agree. I know that I have some things going on and it's good enough. like my body's making breast milk, great. Like we're good. It's good enough. But yeah, it's a journey. It's a progression, I think, and it's not linear. So it'll change in different seasons for sure.
Yeah, completely. So tell us about your coaching. How can people work with you? What's it like to work with you? Like, tell us more.
Yeah. So I've worked with some men, but mostly women, focusing on hormones, getting off of birth control and regulating cycles, working on PMS, making sure your thyroid's in check. So it's very focused hormonally because how much that matters. But also a lot of people's goal is weight loss. And so we work on that if that's a goal. But it looks like daily communication, mostly through text messaging. But we have a consult to kind of just determine like lifestyle and goals and then work together for a month at a time. I think that I gave you a link to my website that you can just email me at. Yeah. And we can kind of determine if we're a good fit, but it really is, in my opinion, the best job.
Amen to that. Oh my goodness. It's so true. Yes, I will include the link to your coaching in the show notes. If you guys don't know where that is, you can look below if you're watching this on YouTube, or there's usually an icon somewhere in the podcast app where you can search for show notes. And if you're totally confused and don't even know what I'm talking about, you can go to ketodietpodcast.com and look for episode 350 and the notes will be all right there. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on the show today and just sharing your story and your passion and your love for Jesus and just all of the things. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. I mean, I've been listening to this podcast for how many years have you had it?
4, 5.
Right. Well, then I've been listening for 5 years. So thank you so much for continuing to do it. And I might have to skip this one, but I never do. I listen every Sunday morning, and I'm just really thankful for what you've put out and your dedication to helping others too. So thanks so much, Leanne. If people do want to find me on Instagram, which is easier maybe, it's loveleon.co.
And I'll include that in the show notes also. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. See you, Leanne.
Thanks for listening to the Keto Diet Podcast. Join us again in a couple of days to discover more Keto for Women secrets for your fat-fueled life. Music for the Keto Diet Podcast provided by Yechi. Follow Jacob on Instagram at Yechi_official and on Spotify as Yechi. That's YECHI. The Keto Diet Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Keto Diet Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representations or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.